I know you do.
Seats, please.
And we'll
Is it Burley? Keep it warm.
Okay, so lovely to hear that buzz around the room, everybody chatting and laughing and getting to know each other. So if you, hopefully some new connections have been made, saw some details being exchanged. That's brilliant, that's exactly. So who wants to volunteer something they didn't know about somebody? No? Who wants to volunteer somebody? Yeah, Scott, thank you.
So I know a lot of people. I spoke to Rana from Refugee Council. So his role is split across Wakefield and York. And yeah, we were just talking about kind of what day-to-day work involves, and some of the issues he deals with, and some of the connections he has with the VCSE sector in Wakefield.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming. It's good to have you with us, definitely. Any more for any more? Any surprising revelations? Maybe you can't share them.
Oh well, I'll go.
Yes, thank you.
So I've discovered that there are many community foundations in West Yorkshire, but only one in South Yorkshire. And wouldn't you think it makes sense just to have one? Well, it would for me.
Yeah, I think just that there are a lot of different organisations, and thank you to everybody who's come today as well, who has also been at networking events during the last few days. I know it's been a networking event heavy week, but and that just kind of proves the point really. There are loads of different organisations. Are we overlapping stuff? Are we duplicating stuff? And that's the sort of thing that will kind of come up through these discussions, hopefully. So one thing we just wanted to assure you about as well, we don't just really want that. We really don't want this to be just a talking shop, because there are those around. We want this to be a productive and enjoyable time for you. All our time is precious. We don't want to waste it. We want to make the best of it. Make it productive. Make it a group that does something. As a group, as a collective, we all do amazing things individually, but I think just coming together, we can do even more. So on to that. So you might see it on the blurb that the overarching theme to these group meetings is got 5 C's. We've listed those as community, contribution, communication, collaboration and celebration.
Could you repeat those, please? Because I haven't seen those.
No, it's community,
Yeah.
contribution,
Yeah.
communication,
Yeah.
collaboration
Yeah.
and celebration. I really want to say across the nation now, but
Would you like another theme?
That's-
Connection.
connection, absolutely.
You can never have 6 C's, can you? It's got to be 3 or 5.
We can make an exception. Connection, definitely. So we want you to be thinking about these. So obviously you've got your post-it notes and pens. So community in this kind of context is all of us. We're a community, but we also serve our communities. We want to think about that. So as a community, as a collective, who are we serving? Who could we serve more to? Who could we serve better? Where are we now as a group? Okay, as our community, and what can we achieve together? You can shout answers out, but you can get some time to. So if you want to make some notes on this. So, and this meeting will be the one that we talk the most at, all right? Because we want it to be much more interactive than this one. So in fact, it sort of set the ball rolling. So someone's breakfast ready. Contribution. What can we bring to each other? What are our skills gaps? What are our needs? What does one organisation have that another organisation would be really grateful to share? So for example, if somebody employs somebody to do their social media, and then there's a 1 or 2 man band trying to do everything, they buy some of that time from that person, from that organisation, rather than trying to outsource it, rather than trying to do everything themselves. So what do we have between us that we can pool and share? Communication, let's talk about that one.
So, communication, I think communication is really key to everything we do and how we approach it. In fact, we're here today talking about it. It's really, really important. I suppose it's about telling us what we have and what we don't have. So, we have a social media page and how we present it, but we don't necessarily put out flyers to different centres. Can we communicate that? Oh, that's brilliant. Right, and that's what we're learning and doing these things. In this case of how we can communicate better together. Is it best to communicate in this room here? Is it best to have lots of communication meetings elsewhere? It's a case of really, really putting out that kind of question to ourselves. How can we communicate better? I think the third example again earlier was using potential social media person where people employ that person. We can communicate that we need social media presence, we can work with somebody, another organisation work with somebody, and by making that connection, we can then suddenly expand our communication levels with each other. And also how we keep in touch with each other. Is it meeting face to face and talking to together? Is that the right way for us to communicate? Is it via email? Do we need a WhatsApp group? All these things need to put on place and put on the kind of platform for us to discuss and agree really, because we're here, yes, we're chairship, but we don't know the answers. We are very open that we are open to the idea of listening to people and making sure we all get people's values and opinions put forward so they can agree on things together. And again, that will do a connection, making that connection together so we can make things better. And that's what we really want to do. Collaboration?
So yeah, pooling resources, like we said, project delivery, networking. I know that we worked very closely with Kat and Julie, Maddie, and a couple of other ladies on a project in the spring called Empower. We were tasked, Kat and I were tasked to project manage it. We had a very short turnaround, there was a decent lump of money, and we knew that actually we couldn't deliver all of that project, just the two of us. So we brought in other people, we collaborated, and actually over that 8-week period, we hammered social media, so apologies for all of that you saw. But over that 8-week period, we got over 830 attendances to the project with about 3 days to launch it. So that's obviously a successful example, but we can all do that. We can all kind of, how can we do that better? Are there projects? Could we go for bigger pots of funding in a collaborative way rather than all trying to scrabble and compete against each other essentially for those smaller pots? Can we use the power of collaboration to go to people like Nova or Sport England, put it in the line like that, and just say, look, between us, we can deliver this project across the district, but we can't do it with 5s and 8s and 4s and 6s. We need 250 grand, and we'll do it between us. Can we do that? Is that feasible? So just be jotting your ideas down on that.
Celebration? I think voluntary sector specifically don't really shout out enough how good we are. I think we are absolutely amazing people. There's passion there, there's dedication. We've all got some sort of personal experience involved in it, which is why we're dedicated to really push this forward. And it's a case of telling ourselves to do a good job, patting ourselves on the back, actually saying out loud, we did a project, this one we got through 830 participants.
Just told them that.
That's amazing. We went to a networking event yesterday hosted by Yorkshire Sport Foundation. It was absolutely amazing. It was so good. We made so many connections with people, so much networking involved, so much happiness. It felt so much, I was buzzing afterwards. I didn't sleep until like 9:30. I was really buzzing for it. It was a really good thing to see, and that is good, and we should share that. People do amazing things every day, and sharing that knowledge and sharing that celebration is really, really important. Because I get a buzz out, you get a buzz, I get a buzz out, you get a buzz, and then that puts me to keep going and really persevere in what I'm doing. If I'm having a bad day or a bad week, and I hear some good news from somebody else, that's going to think, actually,
good on them,
that's going to invigorate me to then push forward and carry on. Think, actually, you know what? That's not important. That isn't amazing. I'm going to use that and take that energy and push me forward again. And again, We need to really, really push that celebration and really
Yeah.
talk it and shout out loud, we are doing amazing. And people say, oh, actually, they are doing amazing things over there. I might get involved as well.
And the thing is, I think the more we shout about it, the more we attract the attention of potential funders, and that's not just necessarily in the third sector. It could be public sector, it could be private sector. And Bernie, actually, you made a really good point yesterday. We're all running businesses, essentially, or we're involved in businesses. Just because we're CICs or charities or community groups, we are essentially running businesses. Some very large and some kind of just setting up and starting off. The business sector have awards. Yeah, why don't we have an annual award ceremony?
Lots of evening and do it.
Yes.
Just roll.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And the vision?
Yeah, so going on from 5 or maybe 6 C's now, I
Yeah.
like the connections with that. Trust me, I think we're going to definitely use that. So thank you for that. We want to collaborate not just with the third sector, we want to collaborate with the public sector and the private sector for this to work. We don't think just working as a single entity in a sector is going to be the right approach. There are amazing things that happen in the private sector, there are amazing things that happen in the public sector. How can we collaborate together to ensure that we make sure that everything we deliver is sustainable for the future? Things can't just go on like this in terms of just working singly in a silo in the third sector only. You know, as you just said, we are a business and we have to take that in a serious point of view. So collaborating with different sectors to ensure we're making a long-term benefit for people, for me, is something that we need to do. Obviously, that's my opinion, but based on what we've done in the past, I think that's a really good point of view. We've collaborated today. We've worked with the private sector printing these off. That's very basic, it's very simple, but we did that. And I think doing that over and over again and inviting different public sector bodies and organisations, inviting businesses to come from the private sector to collaborate and do it, and then suddenly that barrier is broken down and that kind of pain isn't there anymore. That fear of somebody over there in a different space doesn't exist anymore. And I think that's the case of my vision, or our vision, sorry, for everybody, is to try and work towards that and striving to make sure we make a better place for everybody.
So yeah, so just like be thinking, you know, who in those spaces, we probably already do work with public sector and some of us work with private sector, but who can we invite to this meeting? Who needs to know in those sectors what we're doing and how we can benefit them? If you think about small local businesses, have they got some volunteering capacity that you could benefit from? Have they got apprenticeship opportunities? Have they got, you get my drift, so be thinking and sort of making notes along those lines, and we definitely would welcome them, welcome them to these meetings.
I think also the private sector is recognising that. I noticed yesterday in Osset, the Lidl shop's been reopened in a couple of days, but they print out flyers and they need from a pretty much a local company to do that. They've not gone somewhere they know nationally or somewhere they go. They've gone to a reasonably local company to do that. And if they've recognised that themselves as a private entity, then they know how important it is to really get that connection with the local community. It was simple, so simple, but for me, it was quite touching. They did that. So
Can I?
Yes, please do.
I mean, I'm sorry. Don't mind, I'll stand up for them rather than turn my back on everybody. I mean, I think it's great to see everybody here today. I'm John Whiteman, I'm the chairman of Grow Wakefield. Some of you may have heard of us. Basically, what we do is convert unloved spaces into growing places across the district. But my background is I've been involved with the voluntary sector and setting up CICs for a number of years. I think the key to all this, and again, I've been attending this group for about 2 years, basically since COVID kicked off and we started doing all the Zoom meetings. One of the things, I mean, I'm really pleased that this group has effectively got back on its feet, and well done to Andy and Paula for, taking on that role of chairing. I think one of the key things that needs to happen, and I was talking to Millie earlier, is what the group needs is almost, shall we say, the collective power to be able to talk to external organisations, both individually and collectively. So I think there's a need for some focused objectives behind the group. I think it's probably an opportune time to refocus on that. There needs to be some kind of structure to who we are and what we are, because we all, having spoken to Mary this morning, you know, we've got, you know, interesting things to talk about, but they're not, you know, what Mary does and what I do, and my CEO does, Chief Exec Officer does, and my associates, is completely different, but we've got so much in common. It's, you know, just sat down at the side of someone, and I think we've got to nurture that. So the thing is that we need to think about the structure of the group and how it operates. And again, think the thing about collaboration. Collaboration works both ways. You know, it's helpful to individual groups, whether or not you're setting up a CIC, whether or not you're looking at becoming a charity. There are people in this room who've gone through that process. And rather than looking for a third party or submitting your CIC application and it being knocked back, or submitting your charitable status application and it being knocked back, there's an opportunity to work collectively together on that. I think, you know, there needs to be reporting mechanisms in place. One of the other things you need to, or we collectively need to be, is in a position to give assurance to our funders and commissioners as to exactly what we're doing, whether or not we're doing that individually or collectively. And again, it's making sure that you've got, you know, policies and procedures. You might be a 1 or 2 person organisation, but ultimately, what we're facing at the moment is a funding crisis. The funding crisis in the third sector is all around value for money. And if the private sector, if the public sector, any commissioning organisation worth their salt, when they put the pounds on the table, they want feedback back. And again, if we have a collective approach across the district, and that's what I'm talking about, is, you know, everybody can adapt it to their own usage, but it's things like making sure that you've got the right processes and policies in place, so that you know, you can assure the funders and the commissioners that what you've actually been doing is actually benefiting them. Because to some extent, it's making sure that whether or not you're working with, and I can just use Grow Wakefield as an example. We've got funders funding from Haribo, we've got funding from the health, Director of Public Health areas. What we do is we produce a report, we give them the facts and the figures as to who participated in what events and so on and so forth. So when they turn around to their accountants and when they turn around to their boards, they can actually justify why they spent the money. All it's about, I think, is, and it sounds complicated, and that's the thing I wanted to get across. It's not complicated, it's just taking the time to just think through exactly where we want to be this time next year. It's not something that can be done instantaneously, but I think it's just important that we start to look at the structure. And I think the 6 C's, you know, are an excellent way, because you can almost check back, do our objectives achieve, you know, are we doing exactly what we say we will do?
And I think, thank you for that, John, and I think it's really important that the objectives of the group come from within the group.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry to jump in, but I think it's just important. I think it's great to have I think your key point was, it can't be a talking shop. People's time and energy is so valuable, and we're in a situation now, ever much more so, with, you know, cost of living and the purse strings being pulled so much tighter. We've really got to collectively make sure that we don't miss out. And I'm being very geographical about this. You know, Leeds and Bradford, Calderdale, Kirklees, York, Doncaster, they'll all be going through exactly, you know, those districts, they'll be going through exactly the same situation that we are. We want to be in a position to be up there, making sure that we get the funding, you know, and that we can show that we can demonstrate that we are collectively working, you know, together.
When we applied for our CIC status, we failed the first time. We made a And we messed up. It was very obvious. It cost us no £14 whatever to pay for it. But if we were able to tap into resources and experience from here, and we say, look, we want to become a CIC, is there being that's gone through that process? Oh, I've been through the process. Oh, you just got to fill that form. You're going to make sure you do this, and make sure you do that, and make sure you do the other. And it would have saved us, what, best part 6 weeks, and another £15, whatever it was. So tapping on the resource and that experience that people have and sharing that amongst people, whether it's here or whether it's another conversation, another day, it doesn't particularly matter. But having that conversation and sharing that experience will build up that experience and allow us to really take that vision, that push forward, really.
And something we'd really like to do as well is ask you if you have got venues across the district, invite us to it. We don't want to be in the same place every week. We want to get to your venues. We want you to have the spotlight on you as well. So if you're hosting, or even if you just want to tell people what you do, any help that you need or anything like that, we want to give everybody. We don't want to be stood up here talking at you every single time. We want, we want everybody to have a voice and to be heard and to listen. So you've got some bits of paper on your table. If you, I think we'll take about 10-15 minutes, just jot down some of those ideas, probably what it relates to, which city it relates to, and what ideas you have. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
That all makes sense. So we're writing ideas about them, not on Christmas, just to
We're not interested.
Yeah, we became a charity. I must admit, we sailed through it just because we had some possible
Okay, I can see you lost.
And
That's something that I think there is at first thing that one of the things and how can we collaboration with work with make that and that's how we make changes and bring it back to
more minutes or the ideas flowing?
So that's how we shape it, that's how we can have the based on the group, maybe the group with each of the same issues, so we have those objectives by the communication as well, instead of based on the objective, say for example, Westminster, not people doing this policies, but if they need for
So like your that's why I want to
we need to remember that our policy here created based on Wakefield Council strategy based on health strategy. So the board is nothing standing up. So we have to jump on everything, otherwise we have to fail somewhere down the line. We have to look at the strategies with what we are trying to implement here and see that how we can connect it based on the needs of those organizations.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's still there, but it's yeah, this is there's always a tension, isn't there? If everything's the council,
You look at timers, don't you? Okay, everybody. Firstly, thank you for that. I was on a table up there. I'm just saying about kind of the communication, how it's important that everybody's included, everybody's brought in the discussion. And I never even considered refugees, so I apologise for that. But it's important that we try and find a way to bring everybody in as possible, so we're all inclusive and we're not putting any barriers in place to stop people from entering or coming into this. I'm going to purposely go on each table now and ask somebody just to put on one or two key points that they can come from each, from what they've written or discussed, if that's okay.
It's alright. So we only got as far as collaboration, sorry, we're talking a little bit too much.
That's alright.
So we were talking about community and what is community. I'm a big believer that it's got to be inclusive. Yeah. It's about including everybody. Not stereotyping or putting people into groups. It's about bringing those groups together. It's got to be welcoming. People that have isolated, especially after lockdown. We've all been through trauma with lockdown, whether you've been working or not working, and we've been forced into isolation. And there's still people now in our community that have not come out, and that really does worry me. So yeah, it's about getting people out, getting organisations welcoming these people that are vulnerable. Don't stop at that one.
Yeah, that's great. Bridget, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think there's another one that we've maybe missed, which is the circular economy, which maybe encompasses all the Cs. And about how, because it's also about how we help with saving the planet a bit. But I mean, the organisation that's got me really thinking about this is Crafting for Good in the Ridings. And I don't know that people know, but it's not just Crafting for Good, but behind that, they were one of the first 20 eBay sites in the world that were linked in to showcase what they're doing. And they are leading that work still. And yet, do we go there for our craft materials? I know some of us will do, but actually, they get so much donated from all over the country, free, and they will give that back out to organisations. So anybody that needs any kind of crafting, it's not just crafting material, it's lots of stuff. But it's that's an example of how we could better use the circular economy, and maybe we go and buy stuff from a store when we could go there. And if we could encompass all of the C's in that circular economy, maybe it would make us think slightly differently, because that's all the sectors, and you were talking about that earlier on.
The fact you celebrated that straight away, I mean, my kids, arts and crafts, they're fanatics. I mean, and I knew nothing about that. So the fact you celebrated and showed it.
I mean, literally,
So,
they take it, I think, the last time I was with Adele, they had repurposed 40 tonnes of stuff, which comes typically, I mean, Adele was talking as well, because she tends to think of it as people that benefit in Wakefield, but actually the people that donate that via eBay, often it's maybe because a relative's died, and they don't want to just throw the stuff, so it stops it being landfilled. And actually it gives them a lot because they're giving it to somewhere that will be using it. So it's kind of everybody wins, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
I think we've had quite a lot really. We'll go on to the next one. So contribution, we said mentorship. So there's obviously organisations in here that are a bit more established or that are a lot larger than say myself and Julie's. And coaching as well. You know, I'm a qualified coach, like some others in here. I've set up my own business, that's doing very well. I'm more than happy to share that experience with other people, especially women. I think women find it very difficult, and also celebrating amongst each other what works well now, what's going well now, instead of, I suppose that relates to funding a little bit, doesn't it, in terms of not focusing on new ideas and new projects and new pilots. Let's talk about what's working well now.
Yeah, funding always seems to be available for the shiny new projects, but not for the stuff that's worked well for years, and you need just
To carry it on.
to carry that on, and the cost to support.
It's bread and butter, isn't it? That is
Yeah,
the
it is
basis
the bread
of
and
it.
butter, but the funders seem to.
It's not shiny and new Scotland, you know.
Yeah.
So continuity, do we need another
The other
sentence?
sectors,
I think we need circular.
it is the time when I get really perturbed about it, because actually health can't continue without funding. And private sector can't continue without funding, so why should the voluntary sector be expected, oh, you can take a bit of money and then you can just magically keep going? And I think we need to just ask that, remind them of that sometimes.
Yeah.
And that relates back to the point I made in my little bit, and that is, again, is now using money and actually justifying. And I think that, Bridget's term there about the circular economy is if you look at the political situation that we've got on a local basis, Wakefield Council are very much into, as an executive level, from a leadership point of view, they're very much into nurturing and trying to encourage. I mean, they've announced yesterday that they're going to change the fleet of vehicles to all electric within the next 5 years. So it's that thing of working collaboratively together to actually make sure that a lot of the projects that are ongoing now are what's the word? Fulfillable.
It's understanding how you do that then. What are the practical measures? Who are the people that we need to be talking to? When you're the little single person in a tiny charity, it is who are the individuals that we need those conversations. And this is where
This space
this
should be
will
that
help.
network. Yeah.
It's all right saying you need to do this, but how?
No,
How do we do
it's
it?
creating a sustainable approach.
Yeah.
And a sustainable approach also is when you talk about succession planning. So the thing is about a lot of charities and a lot of groups. Literally, if the founder, drops away, or retires, or sadly dies, right? In some instances, because they're effectively a one-woman or one-man operation, or there's a couple of people, the drop, it just disappears. And what we can't afford is for that. And this is the great thing about this group, is you can actually start talking about succession planning. You can talk about sustainability. You can talk about working collaboratively, sharing. So again, it's Murray and I were talking about not working in silos.
Yeah.
That's a big danger.
We can't sustainability, but it's how we see. It's
Well, when I went to school, we used to spell sustainability with the same.
Stephen, thank you.
Just to sort of build on that as well, we thought something that was very important was that when we do a project, that we often will buy things for that project, and then if that project runs out of, it comes to its end, those items can be left.
Yeah.
So being able to have the resources to be able to share those between us all was something that we thought was really could really benefit the sector, because then there's more money available in the economy between us to do more.
A communal store cupboard.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
We've got time for 2 more contributions. Yes.
Yeah, we spoke about resources as well, but we spoke about, like, you know, everyone wants a directorate, but sometimes you just see the organization and the name and what they do. And maybe if we could have a directorate that tells information like what area, you know, where we can, if we're trying to find stuff, maybe you want a minibus or something like that, having all that information, what other you can get from other organizations that you might not necessarily have, and somewhere where we can share, you know, people can advertise if they've got space. There are small organizations like us that really struggle for space, and maybe some people have got spaces and things like that.
I think Tracy's table talked about Facebook group.
Yeah. We talked about connections in different ways for Facebook and Twitter, things like that, and possibly a third sector fair, a bit like a job fair where you could go and showcase all the things that you're doing. People can volunteer to do mentoring and say, look, I can support with mentoring, these are the things I excel in, come and speak to me. Information sharing, learning, but the things we'd also put was worried about information overload, and actually networking and information sharing is really difficult to do for the smaller ones. The bigger ones are well connected anyway. So maybe, you know, getting together and employing a network worker, or putting some money in a pot and buying some kind of internet provider thing that can put information on, it takes it off, it cleans it, it puts your posters up. But there are things out there that businesses use out there that can fire off emails and stuff, and it's done automatically. But we haven't got, well, I haven't, and the people around our table, we've got a bit of that, and Tracy's really good at Facebook and Twitter and stuff. But you know, there are things out there to help people to network and to grow their business online. So maybe some best all look at that.
Yeah, but we're talking about.
There definitely is some, absolutely,
Let's work on
together.
that better.
Absolutely.
And work instead
together.
of reinventing.
Absolutely.
Is there, I mean, I haven't thought of this before, but Wakefield's private sector expertise in IT is quite good, isn't it? Yeah. And have we missed a trick in not thinking about that before?
Absolutely, 100%, and that's the perfect example of.
So if anybody's got a really good name for an organisation that does exactly that kind of thing.
I think one thing from the table I was thinking about was, for example, sexual violence, sexual harassment at the moment. Does everybody have a policy on that? Is that something that we need to potentially bring somebody to present and discuss what a policy should look like and what should feel like and what should sound like, so that we can then have that? So even if you're a massive organisation or you're a one person band, you can still access that exact same information expertise so that you are up to date with information. So if you did apply for something and you needed a certain policy, you needed a certain something in place to ensure that you got that, then you can, because you've got the support through that.
Nova, I've had to do all this with our charity, and Nova support have sent me all the template policies. So I think there's.
Yeah, no, I think Nova's definitely the pioneer in terms of the leadership for all this, but it may be a case of if we can potentially explain that, express that, so if something that you potentially need and Nova goes, here has it, we could potentially look at Nova's support for it if they have that. If they don't, then it's again, how can we put out our fingers to further out and find out where we can tap in, whether it's ICT or something completely different, kind of pushing those boundaries out to find out where we can make those networking connections.
I'm just really keen to hear from you, please. Yes.
Yeah. What I suggest there, I think that is important that if we do any objectives, everything should be around the needs of our service users. One of the biggest jobs that we have is to make sure that we turn up that volume, we involve our service users, and we show it in practice, their involvement. If you are gathering feedbacks, to making sure that feedback's being reflected. If we divide the work that we are doing based on the needs of our service user, grouping will be easier. And we also can think that the collaboration we are doing is in line with what they need. I understand that all of us listening to service users, but reflecting those service users' voices to sustaining the future projects and the needs is showing that we are not fighting our own corner as organization to continue the projects. We are fighting for people that we are supporting. And I give you an example. Recently, we've reviewed dementia support services in Wakefield. For many years, I worked with Wakefield, but we never done that pathway to show from pre-diagnosis to bereavement who's doing what in Wakefield. And that's one of the areas that we need to work on. That's the reason that I'm saying based on objectives. You forget many of the organizations you meet. If you're doing my job, I leave this room and I remember a couple of faces. I even don't remember people's faces. I'm that bad in it. Yeah? Because when you meet so many people during the week, it's difficult to remember who's doing what. But when we've done that dementia pathway, it's showing who we need to work with. And if you're going to put the objectives or a strategy for third sector, we need to make sure that we are looking at the strategies that council developed, NHS developed in this area, and also private sectors. We need to make sure that we are filling those gaps, and where we sit is the right place within that bigger view that is happening. Because it's great individual works that are happening, but as you're saying, someone can do that piece of work and then the partner dies, they can't continue. That piece of work can just dissolve after a month. But if we focus on the needs they were meeting and how we can continue that piece of work within this city, because the needs are there, the gaps is in there, I think that will be the better way to develop it. That's my personal view. But service user, definitely turning up the volume to make sure their involvement, to get the feedback, making evaluation count or feedback somewhere that you can reflect that actually we are not about this organization, we are about the voice of these people who their needs is not met. That's something.
Thank you.
100%. I think I support that initiative and suggestion. And I think that's something that you've got to remember is the end user, and without them, you know, whatever you're trying to do is because you may well, with all good intention, be doing something that you think is what they want, but in actual fact, you're expending energy on something that, you know, is maybe being fulfilled by someone else.
It may be needed that we actually invite end users in, and
Yeah.
people in and let them voice their concerns or their thoughts, opinions on the matter, and that way we can get a real raw opinion of that. And talk about earlier a group I was studying about having a VIP to come in every guest speaker come in every time and talk about what they're doing and presenting it and getting that focus on that. So again, it could be a news that does
Again,
that.
tell us who you want to hear from.
Yes, and it might be a good idea actually, because we're aware that there is good practice around about. Is to bring somebody in from outside.
Yes.
We were just talking here about Kirklees, right? I mean, it might well be that somebody, or from Colgate or whatever, that there's a particular element there that we could all learn from to get them to come and talk about it, right? Because we're not in a silo in Wakefield, we're part of a much bigger whole.
Yeah. No, love that. So I'm just conscious of time. We're in the last couple of minutes. It's been brilliant to hear so much passion. We never doubted it for a second. We know we're all very passionate about what we do. Really want to thank you for all your input, and I hope that you like the flavour of this going forward, and that we will just do more and more exciting stuff. So with that in mind, somebody mentioned earlier about all the different foundations, all the different organisations, Wakefield this, Trinity that, We think that Wakefield's Third Sector Leader Group is a really dull title. It's really boring, right? It doesn't
do with COVID title.
It does not instill you with a feeling of the type of passion and enthusiasm and great work that we all do, that you all do across the district. So we fancy a name change. You agree? You think?
Well, we are not the third sector either. I don't think we should call ourselves
Absolutely
that.
not.
We're just as important as any other sector.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know. So yeah.
I mean, I put on a post the other night, it's just like, who even decided to call us a third sector? Because actually now more than ever, we're plugging gaps, we're doing essential services, and we're, yeah.
Can I just say,
Yes.
because I feel quite strongly about this, and I agree about the name, but I think it's important to know where this group started and why it started.
Yeah.
And it was the third sector. It was important it was called the third sector then, because it was at the height of the pandemic, when our statutory sector partners were trying to take over our community centres and run services, and they couldn't do it. And we came together as leaders is the wrong word, as people that were able to mobilise their own staff, their own service, and turn it around on a sixpence to meet the need of the pandemic. So I think I'm really passionate about the power that we had back then, and how we stayed together, because we supported each other emotionally, all those things, we communicated with it. So I think it's really important to know the backstory, where it came from.
Yes.
But I agree, the third sector leaders,
We should lose it now.
we should absolutely.
So we have a
But you
competition.
can never move forward without looking at where you come from.
No, and that's really good.
About the statutory
Perfect point.
councils giving up some power as well.
Yes.
Which I think in theory that they say that they're thinking of doing. I'll keep it at that.
Thank you. So we have a competition, we have a name change competition. We'd also like to create a logo, but obviously I think that will probably come with the name. So send your entries please to hello@evergreenactive.co.uk. The PowerPoint would have been really good at this point, yeah. 16th of December is your cut-off time, and the prize is a £50 voucher. We need to speak to Maddie about this actually. Scott, yeah.
It's kind of like Scott's wages just now. So 3,000.
So £50 voucher to be spent ideally in a Wakefield owned restaurant, independent, you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so get your entries in, no wrong answers, and we'll just look forward to seeing them. I think, hopefully. Yes,
Sorry,
go on.
a £50 voucher to spend in a restaurant. Who's allowed to spend that? In the organisation?
And governance,
Governance, you could have an issue there.
You could.
Right, well.
So if I'm the winner, me and my friends go out for a meal, is that appropriate? Do I have to write that, declare that?
Right, no, great point. Could you gift it?
I think that would be more appropriate.
Yeah, so you gift it within your organisation?
Yeah, I think that's really
Absolutely no
important.
problem. No problem. Thank you. Good point.
Further section.
Okay, we're 2 minutes over, so more than happy for you all to get up and rush out and never down your doors again. No, that's not true. Is just very, very quickly, anything else anyone's got a burning desire to get out?
Can I just say, it would have been, I don't know a lot of people in this room, and it would have been nice if you just buzzed around the room and so we all said who we were.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we can do that. We're going to do that in the future.
Would it be helpful if we had a longer time before the meeting started to talk to people and see people? Or
you could produce a list of attendees as well, because we're all should be doing this. looking to.
Oh, that's right.
We just want to know who everybody was here.
No, absolutely. Any more for any more? Right, so,
Sorry, can I just ask,
Yeah.
what's going to happen next then?
so we're going to take all this away. We're going to align it to the, I think we're at 7 Cs now, actually, there's a song in there somewhere.
I'll get the dictionary if I'm
We'll present it back at the next meeting.
At the next meeting.
Yeah, so the next meeting is on the 1st of December at West Wakefield Methodist Church, but obviously the emails will come round to be on to that.
If you haven't already registered and put your names here and information on, you won't be getting correspondence unless you're already on the books. If you've not already signed in, please sign in, and that way.
Just a thought, no, just a thought, one or two faces missing today. And again, ironically, it's only because I fell upon the notification because obviously prior to that, we used to get an email. So I wonder whether or not it's worth looking back